My father left me alone on Christmas at age 11 to watch my stepsister's dog. Now I make more than him and he's begging for money. But he discovered I'm no longer the helpless child he abandoned. I'm 25 years old. I work as a data analyst at a tech company. And honestly, I need to get this story off my chest because, 2 weeks ago, my father called me again asking for money, and I honestly don't know whether to laugh or cry about this whole situation anymore. I guess I should start at the beginning. Or, well, when everything went to shit. Which was basically when my mom died. I was 9 years old. She had cancer, and everything happened really fast. In 6 months, we went from, "Mom's a little sick," to planning her funeral. And I don't remember much from that time except that suddenly my life was completely different. And my dad, Frank, was devastated, but also kind of absent. You know what I mean? He was there physically but mentally somewhere else. The first few months after Mom died were weird and sad, and my dad basically didn't know what to do with me. I think neither of us knew how to process what had happened, but at least we were in it together. Both of us. Just trying to survive day by day. He worked in sales. Something about industrial equipment or I don't know what. And I went to school and came back to an empty house most of the time. My Aunt Elizabeth, my mom's sister, came to visit us often and brought food because my dad didn't cook anything that wasn't pasta with jarred sauce. And she'd stay with me doing homework or watching movies while my dad worked late. She lived 2 hours away but still made the effort to come at least once a week. And looking back, she was the one who really kept me sane during that time. But then, a year after Mom died, my dad started dating someone. Her name was Karen, and she was 12 years younger than him. I mean, my dad was 35 years old and she was about 23. And at first I thought, okay, I guess dad needs to be happy too. I'm not going to be the selfish kid who doesn't want her dad to rebuild his life. Karen seemed pretty normal. The first few times I met her, she smiled a lot and asked me things about school and brought me chocolates. Stuff like that. My dad seemed happier, more present, and I genuinely wanted it to work out because I had seen him so bad for so long. What I didn't know then, because I was literally 10 years old, was that Karen had a 17-year-old daughter named Monica, who lived with her dad but would soon be moving in with us. Nobody told me anything until a week before it happened. I remember perfectly the day Karen and Monica moved into our house because it was 3 months after I met Karen. Everything happened super fast. My dad sat me down in the kitchen and said, "Karen and Monica are going to live with us now. We're going to be a family." And I just nodded because what else was I going to do? I was 10 and a half at that point. Monica arrived with 1,000 boxes of stuff, clothes and makeup and posters of bands I didn't even know, and basically took over the guest room, which was where my Aunt Elizabeth stayed when she came to visit us. From day one, Monica completely ignored me. She wouldn't even look at me when she passed me in the hallway. And Karen suddenly wasn't the nice lady who brought me chocolates anymore, but someone who started giving me orders about cleaning my room and helping with dinner and setting the table. Things started changing gradually. It wasn't overnight my life turned into Cinderella. But basically, over the next few months, Karen kept assigning me more and more chores around the house. At first it was "Can you help wash the dishes after dinner?" which seemed normal and fair to me. But then it became, "You have to wash all the dishes from all the meals." And then it was, "You also have to clean the entire kitchen." And the living room too. And the bathroom. Meanwhile, Monica did absolutely nothing. Literally nothing. She spent her time in her room or going out with her friends or watching TV. And if I asked my dad why I had to do everything and Monica nothing, he'd say things like, "Monica is older and has her own life," or "Don't be dramatic, they're just some chores." And I'd stay quiet because I didn't want to cause problems. But what really made me realize something was very wrong was Christmas that year, when I was 11 years old. My dad, Karen, and Monica decided to go on vacation to the beach for 10 days, from December 23rd to January 2nd, and they told me I couldn't go because someone had to stay home to take care of Rex, Monica's dog. Rex was a golden retriever that Monica had brought when she moved in, and that she supposedly loved more than anything in the world. But guess who had to feed him and walk him every day? Yeah, me. So basically, they left me alone in the house during Christmas vacation to take care of Monica's dog while they went to the beach. I was 11 years old, and they left me alone during Christmas. My dad left me money for food and told me to behave and not to invite anyone to the house, and they left. I spent Christmas eating frozen pizza and watching Home Alone on TV, which, in retrospect, is ironic because I was basically Kevin McAllister, but without the burglars and without the happy ending, where the family comes back and realizes they missed him. When my Aunt Elizabeth found out what had happened, because I called her crying on Christmas Day, she literally drove 2 hours to my house the next day with my cousin Michael, who was like 16 at the time, and they stayed with me until my dad got back. Elizabeth was furious. I had never seen her so angry. And when my dad arrived, tanned and relaxed from his vacation, she yelled at him for like half an hour about how he could leave his daughter alone during Christmas to take care of someone else's dog. My dad got defensive and said I was fine, that it wasn't a big deal, that I was almost 12 and responsible enough. And Karen chimed in saying that someone had to take care of Rex and that it was important for me to learn responsibility. Michael took me to my room while they argued and said, "This isn't right. You know this isn't right, right?" And I shrugged because honestly, I didn't know what was normal and what wasn't. I just knew I felt miserable. After that, things only got worse. The following years were basically me doing everything around the house, while Monica lived her best life without any responsibility. I cooked, cleaned, did laundry, walked the dog, mowed the lawn, cleaned the garage, organized the basement, anything Karen decided needed to be done. My dad worked a lot, and when he was home, he basically let Karen handle everything related to the house and me, and Karen treated me more like an employee than her stepdaughter. Monica by this point didn't even talk to me anymore. She just left me notes with things she needed me to do, like wash my gym clothes for tomorrow or clean my bathroom. It's disgusting. And if I didn't do it, Karen would punish me by taking away my internet or TV or not letting me go out with my friends from school. When I was 14, I tried to talk to my dad about the whole situation. I found him one Sunday in the garage cleaning his car, and I said, "Dad, I need to talk to you about Karen and Monica and how they treat me." And he looked at me with that, "Oh no, not this again" face. And I explained to him that I felt like a servant in my own house, that Monica didn't do anything while I did everything, that it wasn't fair and that I missed when it was just him and me. My dad sighed, put down the rag he was cleaning the car with, and said, "Look, life's not fair. You just have to deal with it. We all have to do things we don't want to do. I work all day at a job I don't love to pay the bills. That's just how things are." I stood there waiting for him to say something else. Something like, "You're right. I'm going to talk to Karen," or "We're going to make the chores more equitable." But he just went back to cleaning his car and the subject was closed. It was Michael who really opened my eyes when I was 16. He'd come visit me when he could because he was studying at a nearby university. And one day we were in my room, and he saw my chore list that Karen left me every day. And it was literally like 15 things I had to do after school before dinner. And Michael read it and said, "This isn't normal. You realize this isn't normal, right? Your dad and Karen are basically using you as free labor, and that's not okay." I tried to defend them, saying, well, maybe it was normal. Maybe all families worked like this. And Michael showed me his phone where he had searched something about child labor laws and child abuse and said, "This is what this is. This is abuse, and you don't have to put up with it forever." That conversation changed something in me. Like it made me realize I was right to feel miserable, that it wasn't me being dramatic or difficult. It was that I was genuinely being mistreated. From that moment, I started planning my escape, basically. I focused on school like never before, got the best grades possible, took all the standardized tests I could, applied for every scholarship available, and spent my last 2 years of high school with one goal: to get out of that house. Karen and my dad thought it was great that I was being so responsible and mature with my studies, not realizing that what I was really doing was building my ticket out. When I was 18, I received a full scholarship to a university that was like 5 hours away. Everything paid for, dorm included. And honestly, when I got that acceptance letter, I cried with relief, because I knew I was finally going to be free. The day I left for college, my dad helped me carry my stuff to the car, which wasn't much, because most of my clothes and personal things were pretty old, since Karen said there was no budget to buy me new things while Monica had new clothes and shoes and makeup every month. Karen gave me a quick hug and told me to call if I needed anything, and Monica didn't even come down from her room to say goodbye. My dad hugged me and said he was proud of me, to do my best in college, and I just nodded because if I opened my mouth, I was going to say things I might regret. My Aunt Elizabeth and Michael came to say goodbye, and Elizabeth whispered in my ear, "You're free now, don't come back," and I promised her I wouldn't. College was amazing. Like it was the first time in years I felt like a normal person. I had a roommate who was super cool. I made friends, went to parties, studied what I liked, which was math and computer science. And, for the first time in a long time, I didn't have a list of 15 chores waiting for me when I got home. I called my dad like once a month, short conversations where he'd ask how classes were going, and I'd say fine, and that was it. I didn't go home for Thanksgiving or Christmas that first year. I told my dad I had to study for final exams, which was partially true, but mainly I didn't want to be in that house again. Then came the moment I should have seen coming but still surprised me, and it was when Monica sent me a message on Facebook. This was like 5 years ago, when I was 20 and in my second year of college, saying, "Hey, how are you? Haven't talked in a while." And I was like, okay, this is weird because Monica had never voluntarily talked to me in her life, and I responded with something generic like, "Fine, busy with school." And she continued with small talk for a while until she finally got to the point, which was to ask me if I could write some essays for her, because she was taking classes at the local community college and was behind on her assignments. I literally laughed out loud when I read that because seriously? After years of treating me like garbage, now she wanted me to do her homework? And I responded with something like, "No, I can't do that. It would be cheating, and besides, I'm very busy with my own classes." And she insisted, saying it was just a small favor, that we were sisters, that family helps each other. I told her no again, more clearly, and she got mad and sent me like 5 messages in a row saying I was selfish, that I had always been a difficult child, that she couldn't believe I didn't want to help my own sister, and I just stopped responding and blocked her. Like 2 hours later, Karen called me, furious, yelling at me about how I dared to deny Monica help, that after everything they had done for me, that I owed them this. And I told her very calmly, "I don't owe you anything. You treated me like an employee for years, and I'm not going to help Monica cheat in college." And I hung up. My dad called me that night. His tone was more disappointment than anger, and he told me I was disappointing him, that family was important, that Monica needed me, and I was being selfish. And I asked him, "Where were you when I needed family? Where were you when they left me alone at Christmas? When they treated me like a servant?" And he was quiet for a few seconds and then said, "You got over that? Why do you always have to bring up the past?" And I hung up on him too. I didn't talk to any of them for like 6 months after that. And honestly, they were the best 6 months I had had in years. I focused on school, got a summer internship at a software company, started dating someone, basically lived my life without the constant weight of that dysfunctional family. But then, right before starting my 3rd year, my dad sent me a message saying he needed to talk to me, that it was important, and like an idiot, I thought maybe he was finally going to apologize or something, so I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop near my campus. I arrived at the coffee shop, and there they both were, my dad and Karen, sitting at a table in the back, and I immediately knew this wasn't going to be an apology. I sat down, and my dad started with something like, "Thanks for coming. I know things have been tense," and I just nodded, waiting for him to get to the point. Karen looked uncomfortable, playing with her coffee cup, and finally my dad said, "We need your help with something. Monica is having problems at school and with money, and we thought maybe you could help her a little, you know, lend her some money or help her find a job or something." I just stared at him like, "Are you serious right now?" And I asked him how much money Monica needed and what for, and it turned out Monica had failed most of her classes, owed like $3,000 to the community college, didn't have a job because she couldn't find anything she liked, and basically they wanted me, who was living on student loans and a scholarship and working part-time at the campus bookstore, to give them money. I told them no, very clearly, that I didn't have extra money to give them, and that even if I did, I wouldn't, because Monica was an adult and needed to learn responsibility. And Karen interrupted me, saying, "How could I be so cold to my own family, that when they took care of me as a child, they never asked for anything in return?" And that's when something broke in me. I told them, "Take care of me? You think you took care of me? You used me as a servant for years. You made me feel worthless. You left me alone at Christmas when I was 11 years old. 11 years old? To take care of Monica's damn dog while you went on vacation. And now you have the nerve to say you took care of me." My dad tried to interrupt, but I kept going. I told him, "You failed me. You were supposed to protect me after Mom died, but instead you let your new wife treat me like garbage because it was easier than confronting her. You chose Karen and Monica over me again and again, and now you come asking me for money like you owe me something." The coffee shop was pretty crowded, and some people were looking at us because I was talking louder and louder, But honestly, I didn't care. This had been stored inside me for years, and it was finally all coming out. Karen told me I was exaggerating, that I had always been dramatic, that they had only tried to teach me responsibility and values. And I laughed because what values exactly? The value of exploiting children for free labor? The value of extreme favoritism? The value of emotionally abandoning your child? My dad looked between angry and embarrassed, and finally said, "If that's how you feel, then maybe it's better if we don't have contact for a while." And I told him, "You know what? You're right." And I got up and left the coffee shop without looking back. During the next year and a half, I finished my degree, graduated with honors, got an amazing job as a data analyst at a tech company that paid me more than my dad had earned in years, and moved into a small but nice apartment like 6 hours away from where they lived. My Aunt Elizabeth came to my graduation, and Michael too, and I cried when I saw them at the ceremony because they were my real family, the people who genuinely cared about me. My dad sent me a text message on my graduation day, saying, "Congratulations, nothing else," and I didn't respond. I thought that was it. Like I thought they had finally understood I didn't want anything to do with them. But like 6 months after I started my job, my dad called me again. I let it go to voicemail because I was at work, and when I listened to the message, it was him saying he needed to talk to me urgently about Monica, that something had happened and to please call him back. I didn't call him immediately because honestly, I didn't want to know. But curiosity got the better of me, and I called him like 2 days later. He told me Monica had dropped out of community college completely, that she now owed like $8,000 between college and credit cards, that she was living with them without working, and that basically they wanted to know if I could help them financially because they couldn't pay her debts. I told him as calmly as possible that no, that Monica was an adult, and her financial problems weren't my responsibility, that I had my own bills and my own life, and that I wasn't going to rescue someone who had never treated me with a minimum of respect or decency. My dad told me I was being cruel, that Monica was depressed and needed help, and I told him, I was depressed too for years living in that house and nobody cared. So no, I'm not going to help. He said that someday I was going to regret turning my back on my family. And I responded, "You were never my family. My family is my Aunt Elizabeth and Michael. You were just people I happened to live with who made me feel miserable." And I hung up. That was like 2 years ago. And since then I've talked to my dad maybe 3 times. Always him initiating contact, always asking for something, money or help with something related to Monica or Karen. Last week he called me again asking for money, saying Monica had finally gotten a job but they didn't pay her enough and they needed help with rent because she had finally moved out of their house. I told him no, to stop calling me to ask for money, that we weren't family in any real sense of the word, and he said something about how he had failed as a father if his own daughter hated him so much, and I told him, "You're right, you failed. But that was your choice, not mine. I was a child, and you were the adult who was supposed to protect me." And I hung up again. Now I'm 25. I'm doing well financially. I have good friends, a life I like, therapy that's helping me process all of this. And my Aunt Elizabeth comes to visit me every month, and we spend the weekend together cooking and watching movies like we used to when I was a kid. Michael got engaged recently and asked me to be part of his wedding, which made me cry because it means he sees me as real family. My updates about Monica and Karen come to me through my dad in those occasional calls, and honestly, I don't care how they are or what they're doing. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, if I should forgive or to try to have some kind of relationship with my dad. But then I remember that Christmas, when I was 11, eating frozen pizza alone while they were at the beach, or all those years cleaning and cooking and being treated like a servant while Monica did nothing, and I remember that I don't owe them anything. Last week, Michael asked me if I would ever forgive my dad, and I told him honestly that I didn't know, that maybe someday when he really apologized for real and admitted what he did wrong, but that would probably never happen because my dad has never been the type of person to admit mistakes. Michael told me he understood, and that he would support me in whatever decision I made. And that's what matters. I guess, having people who support you without judging you. I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with my dad again. Honestly, right now, I don't care that much. I'm focused on my own life and on the people who genuinely love me and treat me well. And if that makes me a bad daughter, or a cold person like Karen says, well, so be it. I don't care what they think of me anymore.